Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to drive quick around Portimao in the wonderful Corvette Z06 LM GT3. My name is Gregor Schill, I'm a test driver and coach for the Coach Drive Academy and also esports driver for the BS Plus competition team. So without further ado, let's get into it. Already, especially in quali, we want to maximize the last corner to gain every hundredth on the start of our lap. Because if we are able to get slightly quicker through the last corner, we will have a higher top speed at the end of the straight, so we'll gain a bit of time already on our flying lap. This is why we try to maximize as much as we can. Here the exit, a bit slightly later turn in, so you can drive the corner as flat as you can essentially. Some cars are easy flat out, some cars are a bit more tricky. Be careful here on the exit. You don't want to cross the white line, otherwise you can get a track limit warning and then your next lap is even invalidated, so watch definitely out for that. Now, on the start finish straight, we want to already look down here, not really too much onto the left side, because what I recommend on this track, as we use the 100 meter line as a reference, we don't need to use the board because the board is further away from where we want to go. So in this case you see you have this white line on the floor, if you want to say it like that, and just before that, that's where we brake. We try to delay our entry slightly because we don't want to flick the car initially already into the corner, because otherwise we'll end up clipping the curb too much. So it's just like a slight delay, so we get then the car here into the banking as you see, and then try to be on the power here at the apex. You can use slightly the curb here, and it's really important that you carry as much speed as you can through this corner, because you can lose a lot of time if you overslow it and are way too early on the power. Now on the exit, it's crucial that you don't drive over the white line, because if you drive like that, here this will be already a cut. On some tracks I know you can drive on curbs like that, but on Portimao the track limits are really strict, so watch out for that. Then the toughest section in sector 1 for me personally are now the following 3 corners, because you need to stay quite tight here and not run too wide here on the exit. Why is that? Of course you want to open up the corner as much as you can, but if you get too much onto the curb, you won't have the time to pull the car back to the apex, because the distance is just so short. So what I would recommend you to do, depending on the car you drive, don't go completely onto the curb, because you can't get the rotation done in time to bring the car back to the apex. So I would recommend you to use maximum like that, and like that you will be easily fine. What we try then here is we try to trail back till the apex. And when we reach here the apex, we already want to go aggressively on the power, rotate the car and bring it onto the right side, so we can do all the turning here before we arrive here at the crest, and then just can straight line our steering here over this part. It's crucial, because if you don't get the rotation done in time, you will understeer on the exit, so you really need to get the rotation, so to say, at the bottom of the hill done. So then you can open the steering and just drive, with almost no steering lock through the corner. Here, as with the exit on turn 1, also for this corner, be careful with the corner exit track limits, because if you drive over like that over the white line, it's again a cut. So it's a pretty tough track just because of the track limits actually. Then no rest at all. We brake now for the downhill hairpin. And here we need to use the 100 meter board here on the right side. So if I just go a bit further backwards, you will see it because it was behind my face cam. So just after, or I would say just after you pass the 150 meter board and before you essentially get the 100 meter board out of your vision, that's where you start to brake. And really important, brake in a straight line. Sometimes this corner allows you actually to delay a bit your downshifts, so which helps you to brake even later, funny enough, because the rear doesn't have really a lot of grip. So if you downshift really quick, you lock the rears and you lose braking performance. Like small tip from my side here for that corner. But really important, don't turn in too early, because then you will make the corner too sharp. So a bit of a later turn in for that one, but still late apex so you can open up the corner a lot and throw the car aggressively. A lot of people do the mistake here to dive too early into the corner and then they can't get the car rotated, so definitely put the emphasis on getting like this late entry right. For the following left-hander it's flat, but it's crucial that you already at this stage think about the next two corners. So it's really important to think ahead on this track. What we try to do here is get onto the curb, and as soon as we are here, we already look here at the apex, manage the speed with our throttle here, can use the brake to get the front around. Then here, depending on the setup, if it's really aggressive, that's where you here already can start to brake. And also here, track limit wise, don't cross the white line. Depending on the setup, again, you can drive like that here on the curb, so put the like red and white curb between your tires, so to say. Or you just don't do that at all if you don't want to risk the so to say, of bottoming out. Then you would just essentially drive with your outside tires onto the curb. And the crucial part here is when you start to brake, you really need to trail till the apex almost. Why is that? If you brake really hard here, the tire will be overwhelmed and you will just understeer. So it's important that you rather have a softer peak and not a hard peak, but you trail the brake here to help the car get into the apex. And when you arrive here, you can go earlier than you think onto the power and run wide to maximize the exit track. Now, short breather here, downhill, that's all flat out. And now we arrive at one of the hardest corners at all and on this track. And what we try to do here is we need to look far left here. You can use the 50-meter board as a reference where you need to brake. So what you try to do here is you line the car up so it essentially points just straight and almost at the Marshall post you see on the far behind on the left. And what you do then is you brake just when you pass the 50-meter board. So now let yourself run a bit wide, and then you start to trail till the apex here and go confidently on the power and maximize the track on the exit. I know it's like one of the hardest corners on this entire track, so just to show you the right way, we will have a look in Delta. And first of all, I would like to show you the driving line. So you see here really well. We arrive here with full throttle. That's where we point the car straight so we can really, you see, maximize the braking. As you see, we don't brake here harder than 81%. Why is that? Because if we would do that, we would run into the risk of the car essentially understeering under the ABS because the tire just doesn't have the grip. So this is why the peak braking pressure is there, not 100%. And as you see, we release it gradually, and then we are done with the brake release, so to say, and then we just use a bit of braking to get the front end around as much as we need to then be able to floor the car and exit as quick as we can out of the corner. Different line variations work here on this track, but the most important part is to be able to carry a lot of speed into the corner while not understeering drastically out of it. You also see here, if we go onto the data sheet, how long the braking phase essentially is and how divided it is. So first of all, this is here, you see quite clearly slowing down the car, and here the last bit is, most of the rotation. As we go now here into this downhill section, it's important to bring the car over to the right side slightly so you can drive this corner easily flat out. And then what we do is we try to brake just before the white line here, as you see on the bottom. That's our reference point. And what I also recommend you guys, don't try to start the corner by positioning the car like that. You see there is quite some elevation change on the left and on the right side of the curb, and this will unsettle the car and won't follow really your line. So don't do that, it will hurt your consistency. So as I said, you can just use the start of the curb here And then, really important, get the car into the corner. Don't turn in as too early, because if you turn too early you won't get the exit right, as the corner is closing slightly up on the exit. So like definitely a slight late apex. And then as you arrive, aggressively on the power, and don't stop the rotation. You want to bring the car as much as possible quick onto the left side here. Trail brake into the apex, and as soon as you see the corner opening up, that's where you can put the power down, run wide. And here it's also really crucial to be careful with the track limits, because this here will be again a cut. So always watch out to not, drive over the white line. And here, crucial aspect is to not turn in too early. You want to delay your turning in point as much as you can, because if you turn in too early, your apex will be so early that you need to lift much more. So maximize the track, be patient, be patient, be patient, turn in, then just when the front goes down, do a slight lift, and then you can floor the car again, and then it will be a much easier corner than if you turn in too early. This was the lap guide on Portimao. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to compare the lap I used in Delta to your own driving, make sure to check Delta out. And other than that, if you want to see how a quick hot lap looks around here, make sure to check out my hot lap in the Corvette on this track. You'll find it now at the end of the video. And for all the others, thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next lap guide. Bye bye.